Well, a very good morning to each and every one of you, to those joining us in the room and, of course, to those who are joining us online. Can I begin by acknowledging the Tasmanian Aboriginal people as the traditional and original owners of the waters and the land where we gather, and pay my sincere respects to elders past and present. It certainly is absolutely brilliant to be here today. Of course, our Premier, Jeremy Rockliff, has been called to National Cabinet and sends his sincere apologies to you all. I know how much he would have loved to have been here with us today. This Bush Summit, which is of course the first for us here in Tasmania, is shining a spotlight on areas of the state that the Premier is such a passionate advocate for. We live on an absolutely extraordinary island here in Lutruwita, Tasmania. Our food, our wine, our industries and our people are all so unique, and we are all bound together by a deep love that we have for this place. We are touched by the same issues faced right across the country, and we fight many of the same fights. So to be here today, to shine a light on what we excel in here in Tasmania and what we aspire to do better, is certainly a great privilege. As Primary Industries Minister, I'm particularly proud of our agri-food sector. We're on track to reach our target of $10 billion per annum by 2050. It is an ambitious goal, but so it should be. We set this goal back in 2014, and our progress towards achieving it is testament to the hard work and passion of our primary producers, supported by government implementing its long-term plan to make Tasmania the best place to live and to work and to raise a family. At the grassroots level, what this means is more regional and rural jobs. It means thriving regional communities where more money is spent in local businesses. We see improved infrastructure and the development and adoption of agri-tech and innovation. The agri-food sector also underpins wine and food trails around our beautiful state, our amazing cellar door experiences, our farm stay accommodation ventures, and of course boosted visitor experiences. And this type of progress simply doesn't happen through chance. It's the result of long-term planning and strategic investment. Our Tasmanian brand is strong, and we're known for producing high-quality food and beverages. As an island state, we need to keep playing to our strengths and project what we have that sets us apart from other jurisdictions. And there are two really critical factors underpinning this. The first is our maritime climate, our clean environment, and our relative pest and disease-free status, which we protect through ongoing significant investment into biosecurity, all of which lets our farmers produce what the country and indeed what the world wants. And the second, I think, and perhaps the biggest game changer for our agri-food sector in the last decade has been the delivery of high surety water for irrigation. We can't underestimate the importance of providing water to areas that previously didn't have it, or the impact that this has had on regional and rural Tasmania. More farmers than ever before now have access to reliable irrigation water, and we have some 18 schemes that are now in place. Through our public-private partnership model, we've been successfully supporting land use change, sustainable increase in agricultural production and regional development in ways that other jurisdictions can only dream about. Farmers can now plan and plant with confidence, and they can enter longer-term supply contracts. They can diversify their enterprises to include horticulture and viticulture, and they can grow crops, including using protected cropping methods in ways that wouldn't have been possible just a decade ago. Tasmanian Irrigation has been developing and delivering irrigation schemes in partnership with Tasmanian farmers, coming together as regional scheme-based irrigator groups. Tasmania is certainly blessed with water supply. It's just not always in the places that we might like to use it. However, we also know it's a really precious asset that our state has. We need to protect it and we need to manage it carefully. That's why we're implementing our rural water use strategy as the first holistic strategy to bring diverse water users together to share information and work together to better manage our water resources. We've been harnessing the capacity and passion of our innovative and entrepreneurial rural community, and our whole state is reaping the benefits of that. Of course, governing and delivering good outcomes for Tasmania also means making those tough decisions, and I can tell you they're not always popular, but they are the right ones for our future. For me, one that I've certainly had to grapple with as a minister is in the fisheries management area, particularly with decisions around our iconic sand flathead fishery. A feed of flatties in Tasmanian families is a bit of a tradition, and with our population, you know, we have around 100,000 recreational fishers and 70% of them catch sand flathead. So when our scientists are telling us that this species is now depleted, that's really, you know, ringing alarm bells. And it was a big call that needed to take immediate action, and that's certainly what we did. We had to introduce an interim measure to reduce fishing as quickly as we could. Indeed, we had to halve the bag limit and indicated that more cuts would be coming. And this action was needed. We had to make this happen while there was a broader review being undertaken. The feedback that we've overwhelmingly received since taking that really difficult decision is that many in the community knew this change was actually needed, and they knew that it was the right thing to do. That doesn't mean that those comments on those Facebook posts were any more commendable of that big decision. And in framing policy, you know, it's really important for us as a government to never lose sight of the importance of looking beyond our urban areas to improve opportunities for Tasmanians in all parts of our state. Last year, our Premier announced the first of many strategic regional partnerships, a collaboration between local governments and the state government to focus on expanding businesses, growing industry, building more homes, having essential services and supports, the skills and training required, and developing our regions in line with their needs. Our strategic regional partnerships identify local challenges and support long-term framework and regional direction for planning, investment and land use within the area. The partnerships focus on practical solutions that address regional needs and growth and bring together key decision makers from all levels of government, from business, community and industry in the region. The first of these partnerships was with the West Coast Council, and I understand the signing of the West Coast MOU is indeed imminent. So I'm delighted today to announce on behalf of our Premier a further regional partnership, this time to cover the east coast of Tasmania, extending from Alford through to St Helens. The area is rich in opportunities in agriculture, tourism, aquaculture and winemaking. However, we know that there are also challenges: housing supply to support employment and training opportunities, access to medical services and support for older residents are all areas that need to be explored, and we will explore them. The government looks forward to further engagement with councils and communities, industry and local businesses right along the East Coast to identify what is needed to ensure a vibrant, thriving East Coast region. We've also improved opportunity across existing programs in all parts of Tasmania where people may need it most. Our government has a long-term plan that is delivering what matters most for Tasmanians. Right now, we support over 30 neighbourhood houses right around the state, including on our 2 islands. Survivors at the Centre, our third Family and Sexual Violence Action Plan, continues our commitment to eliminate family and sexual violence in all Tasmanian communities. And our Equal Means Equal Tasmanian Women's Strategy has a vision for a Tasmania where all women and girls have access to equal choice, opportunity and resources to participate in our economic, social, political and community life. We created Jobs Tasmania to work with and across government, community and business to increase employment outcomes, workforce participation and re-engagement with work, education or training for all Tasmanians. And a focal point of the Jobs Tasmania strategic work program is our regional jobs hub network. We've now got 8 hubs operating right around the state, each positioned and resourced to ensure they can supply services and connect Tasmanians with jobs where they live. You know, I'm a great believer in the power of stories to make a difference, and I would like the opportunity to share a couple with you now. We know that life on the land can be incredibly rewarding, but we also know it can be incredibly hard. Life in rural areas can be isolated and it can be lonely. Things towns and city people might just take for granted just aren't always accessible, like access to a mother's group for a young mum with a first child. Last year I had the pleasure of meeting Stephanie Trethewey. She was named Tasmania's AgriFutures Woman of the Year. Steph moved from big city life on the mainland to a farm in central North Tasmania. She talked about how marrying a farmer meant marrying the land and how becoming a mum was a baptism of fire for her. The isolation of raising kids on a farm without the ready support of family, friends and a mother's group actually hit really hard. And from that experience, Steph created Motherland, which framed a new model of postnatal care by providing online services, resources and virtual communities, as well as partnerships with rural health services to support mums in regional locations. And if you would like to be inspired, jump online and check out Motherland. I should also add that Steph went on to take out the Australian AgriFutures Woman of the Year. And it's not just our rural women who can feel isolated. We know poor mental health outcomes for our men is higher than it should be. And that's why we provide support for over 70 men's sheds to provide a safe and easily accessible place for men to gather and share services and share their stories if they choose to. We also fund Rural Alive and Well and Stay Afloat to provide targeted mental health support to Tasmanians right across our state to build mentally healthy and resilient rural communities. I should take just a few moments to talk about Tasmania's salmon industry. I recently had the pleasure of attending a salmon industry open day in the Huon Valley, and the buzz in the air and the pride in that sector was simply outstanding. This was a day for families of the industry to come together where there were kids everywhere, there were show rides, and I've got to tell you some pretty amazing salmon curries. And we know how important this industry is to the thousands of Tasmanians it directly and indirectly employs, with so many of them working in regional areas and earning salaries they couldn't achieve in other sectors. And I've also seen firsthand the high-tech side of the industry when I visited a feed control centre in downtown Hobart, which allows remote management and monitoring of fish farms in waters right around Tasmania, and a new state-of-the-art recirculated aquaculture system hatchery at Cressy. In finishing up today, I would like to share an experience the Premier and I had in October of last year. Tasmania was hit twice by 1 in a 100-year floods within just a decade. We experienced flooding in 2016 and then it hit again in 2022. In October, I stood with the Premier on a farm in northwest Tasmania and experienced firsthand what loss of topsoil does. The once rich soil of this northwest coast farm had simply been washed away, and when I dug my heel of my boot into the earth, it was just dust. And we stood side by side with this farming family, and they spoke not of what had happened to them, but of what they needed to do to get back up and running. And on the same day, we stood with another family and we saw the 2016 floodline that had been painted on the wall of a workshop, and we heard how tough that experience had been and how they thought it could never happen again. But in 2022, the unthinkable did happen, and a second flood impacted the same place and the water level rose way higher than it had in 2016. It's a priority for our government to listen to these families and to engage with our communities and other stakeholders to provide the support they need, that they need to thrive and survive through the good times, but of course through the bad times. So if you want to experience aspiration and resilience, I invite you to spend a day with our farmers. They and their families embody the true spirit of the bush, and they deserve our appreciation and our gratitude. On behalf of our Premier, I thank you very much for having me here today.